Hello, everybody. I'm really very happy and keen to be here to see you, so to see so many inspired, so many skilled women, prosumers, consumers, producers, investors, mothers. I think that's really so also roles what we take over. I think it's fantastic, and it's fantastic that you organize this initiative, Women Energize Women, what is so important. And I'm really looking forward to network with you, to talk with you, because I know some of your initiatives, and there are so many around which needs to be made visible and scaled up and to be funded and realized. So, as Geraldine mentioned, so I am a board member of Bündnis Bürgerenergie. It's a platform of citizen energy in Germany. So it's mobilizing the citizens for a decentralized energy transition. So to produce the energy where you need the energy. So it's citizen energy, and it's a concept which is spread out over the world. And last week, in the frame of Berliner Energietage, we published a study on energy sharing, which is a concept. It's also mentioned in the European Renewable Energy Directive that people join together, produce in a community their own energy, and they are able to produce, to share, to store, to sell the energy. And we could show that for Germany, it's possible that 90%, so 90, are able to join energy communities, and that energy communities with energy sharing could contribute more than 35% to the ambitious renewable energy goal of our government to produce till 2030 80% of our needed energy with renewable energy. And for this, of course, we need the whole citizenship. So we need women and men, and we need all genders. So it means we have concepts here with citizen energy, so to mobilize women, to mobilize people with different background, and that's very important. That's a great opportunity what we can do. And also what we are doing, for example, with W, so that's what I'm doing on a national level, that's voluntary, but what we are also doing with Women Engage for a Common Future, which is an international NGO founded in Rio 92. So we promised already a lot in 92 for those who are as old as me. And so we already knew that it's very important to include everybody, to include the women, to know the power of the women. And so we started, and we do a lot of energy and climate projects, and we do all the projects in a gender-just way, together with GIZ, with different partners. So 2 weeks ago, I have been in Togo, also with GIZ, and we have a great project, for example, for agriculture, women's empowerment, and renewable energy. And it's just such a bunch of advantages what we can achieve to do it and to empower women, to increase the standard of living, to have a lower workload, to improve the value chain of the agricultural processing, for example. That's what is really fantastic. And what we started, we already mentioned the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement 2015, also in the preamble, we have gender equality. And for example, we started in Paris with an annual award. We work, for example, for the annual climate conferences, the Gender Just Climate Solutions, where we identify outstanding concepts and ideas, mainly initiated by women. And we do it annually. We prepare it, and the award ceremony is in the frame of the climate conference. And after 7 years of the award, for example, we have seen every year more than 200 applications, and we have such a great pool, such a great bunch of concepts of business ideas. So we do not lacking business idea, but what we have to do is we have to make them visible, we have to make them bankable, we have to realize them, and we have to scale them up. For example, and there are 3 categories, for example, it's technological, it's non-technological, because sometimes in some countries it's not possible for women to own buildings, to own land, as you probably know. So it's very important to have non-technical solutions and also transformational solutions. And the award winners are technical award winner of 2021. For example, it was also in the solar industry. It was a Turkish organization called Solar Age, empowering refugee women through solar engineering, which is a very, very successful initiative and organization in training many women to be able to produce own solar energy. So so it means we have a lot of concepts. But as already told, so it should be a motivational speech, but when coming out of the train here to the place and being in the train with only men coming here, so it's clear we have a lot to do. So the way is long, and we know we need more women. We need more expertise, we need more skills, we need more power. So that's very important. And we have a lot of barriers. So we have the cultural barriers, we have the personal barriers, we have some financial barriers, and the structural barriers. And so we talked a lot about the labor market. I think that's very important and it's very crucial. But I think the labor market is only the tip of the iceberg, because so if we have all the time poverty, I guess many of you know what I mean, is because for the care work we do much more, for example, than our partners or overall. So it's also very important to look at the social policy, for example. So it's very important to see who is doing the care work, how do we appreciate the care work. So we see the last 2 years, for example, it's so obvious that it's super important also to have very good care concepts, that women can take over jobs, they are able to travel, they do not always have some mental load, what means you have always your lists in your mind, what you have to do before you fall into sleep in the evening. So I think so that's very important. And the second point also is, for example, our infrastructure. So we see, Walpurga had mentioned it, so we need policy. That's very important. And we have some countries having a great gender-just energy and climate policy. That's very important. But for example, when designing programs like Renewable Energy Acts, like funds for electromobility, for example, it's so important also to apply gender budgeting. So in Germany, we have experienced during the Corona crisis, so the government, they published a great program for electromobility. So you get a grant when you buy an electrical car, which is great overall. It's a very good idea. But what we have seen is that the funding benefited most 80% of men, because men tend to drive bigger cars, they tend to drive more. It's okay, but I think we have to know that. If this is the idea of the government, it's okay, but overall it's to see where the money flows, where the grant flows, that's very important. And so I think we have also to have a look for the infrastructure, because energy investments are long-term. So also an example of mobility patterns, for example. So to invest as much in the public transport as in electrical vehicles, or also maybe in e-bikes or whatever, but really to have a good balance also, and that nearly everybody or all groups of society, they can benefit. That's very important. But let's look on the bright side of renewable energy, of the energy transition. It's already mentioned. Also, that's really the transformation of a centralized fossil energy system to a decentralized renewable energy system untaps really a lot of opportunities, because it's a system change. And that's also, for example, what feminists want to have. It's a system change of power relations. And here we have a great opportunity to start to step into a path and to have energy policies, to have energy concepts, where also with a growing number of women and all genders. And just to give you some points what is the impact of more women in the energy transition. Many of them already has been mentioned, but so I would like to share with you 4 or 5 points. So the first is inequality. So we experience overall inequality. It's not only gender inequality. It's north-south, it's urban, rural regions, it's poor, rich, where we see the big gap, for example, here. And so we know that increasing gender equality, including more women, also decreases inequality because we can reduce our barriers, the structural, the personal, and the financial barriers. The second point is what I like most is because more women is more power, is more expertise, it's more engagement, it's more influence. So I think that's the argument which convinces most the people, because so we need all of you, we need all of us. I think that's so important, and it's really stupid and ridiculous not to do it, so not to use this power. So in Germany, for example, we lack absolutely so technical skills to install the photovoltaic on the rooftops. And now we start to think about that. Of course, we have to do more programs. I think that's very important. And this is absolute key for the energy transition, which is important for the global warming, for resilience, and for the peace, what we have also heard, because renewable energy is peace technology. And at one point also is the participation. So sometimes we lack acceptance for renewable energy because it changes our landscape. So we will see a change with windmills and wind turbines and with big field power plants, for example. And here we also see with participation, with a broad approach to the whole society, we can increase acceptance and we can increase a trustful cooperation, which is between the different stakeholders and actors we need for the energy transition. We see a higher sustainability. So countries like Sweden, like Mexico, Canada, for example, they already apply a gender-just climate policy. So they adopted the gender action plan, which is a part of the Paris Agreement. So gender balance in the delegations, training for all decision makers, for example, some monitoring. And here we see also more sustainable and successful measures. And the last point already mentioned is that with diverse teams, with more women in the team, so we have greater business success. But additionally, what we have seen, for example, with diverse teams, with more women, so they take more the right decisions. So that's very clear and also evident, and that's super important for today, because today we have to take the decisions. Today we have to take the decision, yes, let's go decentralized. We have to take the decision, yeah, let's invest a lot in renewable energy. So that's very crucial, really, to use this power of the women. So it's possible to reduce inequality, to reduce poverty, energy poverty, for example, which is what we know, where also women are more affected, for example. We create jobs, we push the energy transition. That's the main argument, because I think for the target, more or less, we are clear. So we would like to have a decentralized renewable energy provision, but the speed, so we have to speed up, and we have to start today, and we have to use all the power what we have. So that's very important, and that's a challenging field for all of us, and for you to be a role model, to motivate young girls to say, well, it's really thrilling to be here on board, to work on technologies, to work on storage facilities, to work on digital energy markets, or really to design our future energy provision. And so here we would be also able to fulfill our Sustainable Development Goal 5. It was also adopted 2015, the same year as the Paris Agreement, that we have gender equality all over the world. That's very important. And so we have the pool, we have the talents, we see we have a positive development, we see out of here we have to do a lot, and it means we have to really apply gender tools and instruments. And that's a good news. We have a lot of instruments. So for example, Christine with GWNet, there's a super mentoring program, so where women are invited to join as mentee. I used to be a mentor, for example. I think that's very important. A second point is really to do gender trainings. And that would be mainly for all genders, for women and for men. So to provide the arguments, what do we lose if we do not speed up with gender equality, if we do not apply the gender arguments what we have, if we do not take serious all the numbers what we have, so all the gender gaps, the gender data gaps, the gender pay gaps, the gender pension gap, I think so there are so obvious numbers, so really to apply these numbers and to implement instruments. And for example, a very concrete instrument, what I have seen in energy companies is to have targets for the board, for example, to have a flexible working place. And for example, a very, very easy instrument is just to train. It's called awareness persons, and it's really to train people if somebody is discriminated, to have a good way how to solve the problem. If you have a meeting, for example, if you have people speaking much more than other people, and we also know the time of speaking of women and men, for example, just to take care. So there are some new features just for facilitators, for example, and we see big success for energy communities, for energy companies, for example. And of course, the women's empowerment and the communication. So in communication, it's very funny when screening energy companies, for example, so we have learned a lot, but all the pictures, the language what we use is also still male-dominated. And I think that's also a very good instrument where we could have quick wins, and where we have, for example, also good models to see at the homepage, who do I approach, there is one grid operator in Germany, for example, looking for engineers, and they just described the job description for male applicants, and they got very interesting applicants from men, for example. That was really interesting. I think that's great. And for the policy. So we really need coherent policy. And here we have a big gap. So we have our fantastic European Green Deal, which is not considering gender. That's a pity. But on the other hand, we have, for example, the EU Gender Equality Strategy. I think that is very important to bring them together. So it means we have the solutions. We know a lot about it, and we really have to go ahead. That's the good news. It means let's go ahead, meet regularly like here, exchange our experience, work on all levels in the energy sector, in all the technologies, for example. And I think that's very important. And so being a role model and also motivating others. And being surrounded by women and men like you who are leading the way for a female influential energy transition, that makes me really excited. And I think we have to go ahead. We have to repeat meeting like this. We have to exchange, as I mentioned. And I'm looking forward to the next decade of our energy transition. And I hope in 10 years so that we have achieved a lot. All the best for you, for your country, for the energy transition, and for our planet. Thank you very much.